"You took it. Give it back." The words cut through the soft hum of the coffee shop, sharp and accusing. Every head turned, and the warm, calm morning felt suddenly cold. She froze behind the counter, her hands gripping the tray as though it could somehow protect her. "I didn't take anything," she said softly, almost trembling, but the voice that shouted at her only grew louder. "You were the only one near my table. My wallet is missing, and you must know where it is." The room fell silent except for the faint sound of the espresso machine. And yet in that silence, every glance seemed to pierce her like 1,000 tiny needles. Customers whispered behind their cups, some pulling out phones, others simply watching, unsure what to do. She stood there, accused, humiliated in front of strangers, with her innocence dismissed as though it meant nothing. Who among us has not felt the sting of being judged unfairly? The sharpness of someone's anger, the weight of eyes that assume the worst before hearing the truth. And now, in this ordinary morning, a young woman faced exactly that, her world narrowing to the single, harsh voice that declared her guilty. Have you ever been in a place where the room seemed to turn against you, where your very presence was taken as evidence of wrongdoing? Maybe you're watching from New York, Los Angeles, London, or somewhere smaller, a place where everyone knows everyone, and yet the weight of judgment can feel just as crushing. Wherever you are, I want you to pause for a moment and think about your own experiences, the time someone assumed something about you that wasn't true. And if you haven't yet, take a second to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Because today's story is one of those moments that makes you feel everything at once: anger, fear, relief, and finally, the quiet strength that truth can bring. Now, let's return to that morning in the coffee shop. The accused stood trembling, her voice breaking as she tried to explain that she had not touched the wallet, that she had been performing her duties like any other day. The shouting continued, and the whispers around her grew louder, some filled with doubt, some with curiosity, and others with judgment that required no proof at all. A child's laughter echoed from the doorway, but it barely cut through the tension, a reminder that life, for most, continued outside the moment that felt like the entire world had stopped. And then he appeared, the manager, calm, measured, a presence that seemed to slice through the chaos without a word. He asked for everyone's attention, for the voices to pause, and then, quietly, began to speak. He requested that the security footage be checked, that every fact be considered before judgment was passed. The room shifted subtly, the heat of anger giving way to a cautious waiting. People leaned in, phones lowered slightly, and all eyes focused on the unfolding truth. In that moment, the young woman realized that patience and honesty might yet have their reward, that the storm of accusation was not the final chapter. As the footage played, the child at the doorway appeared, holding the misplaced wallet, the misunderstanding revealed in a single, unassuming gesture. The room exhaled as one, her hands unclenched, tears threatening to spill, relief mixing with the remnants of fear. The accuser was silent, caught between embarrassment and disbelief, while the manager offered words that seemed simple but carried weight beyond the walls of the coffee shop. He spoke of dignity, of patience, of the quiet power of truth over accusation. And for those watching now, take a moment to consider this. How often do we rush to judgment, letting assumptions shape reality for someone else? How often do we forget the human cost of a snap conclusion? This story is not just about a wallet, a coffee shop, or a single morning. It is about courage under scrutiny, the strength of those who stand quietly when the world assumes the worst, and the impact of fairness and integrity in even the smallest acts. The silence hung over the coffee shop like a heavy curtain. The young woman, still trembling slightly, felt every pair of eyes weighing her down, some curious, some doubtful, and others ashamed for having judged before knowing. Her voice was small, but steady, when she thanked the manager for believing in her, for taking the time to seek the truth, rather than simply reacting to anger. The accuser, now realizing her error, shifted uncomfortably, muttering excuses that could not erase the moment she had humiliated someone in public. And yet, something in that morning lingered beyond embarrassment or relief. The customers who had watched, some recording, some whispering, absorbed a lesson in dignity and restraint. The manager's calm authority reminded everyone that real power does not come from wealth, from status, or from the ability to shout the loudest. True strength comes from patience, fairness, and the courage to face the truth without fear. Have you ever had a moment when someone else's calm presence shifted everything around you? Perhaps you have seen it in your workplace, your school, or in your community, a person who stood quietly, firmly, while the storm raged around them. It is in those moments that character is revealed, not through noise or show, but through stillness, observation, and the deliberate act of justice. The young barista breathed more easily now, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Though the memory of the accusation remained sharp in her mind, she knew that the world could be harsh, that assumptions could be dangerous, and that even a single misjudgment could leave marks long after words had faded. But she also understood, in a profound way, that integrity was her shield, that honesty and composure were her tools against the unpredictable cruelty of others. The coffee shop, once a place of tension and accusation, now hummed with the quiet return of ordinary life. Cups clinked, conversation resumed, and the warm morning light returned as if to cleanse the space of the harshness it had witnessed. And for everyone watching, consider your own morning routines, your interactions, and the judgments you carry. How often do we rush to conclusions, labeling someone guilty before knowing the full story? How often do we miss the chance to offer patience, understanding, or even just a calm word that could prevent unnecessary pain? This story is a mirror, reflecting not just the life of one young woman, but the choices we make every day when confronted with uncertainty or conflict. It is a reminder that fairness is not passive, that justice is not silent, and that one act of courage, one moment of restraint, can ripple far beyond the immediate scene. For those of you watching from your cities, your neighborhoods, from homes filled with morning light or evening calm, ask yourself how you respond when someone stands accused, when fear and assumption cloud the truth. And if you haven't yet, pause for a moment to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Stories like this are meant to be shared, to remind us all of what it means to act with humanity, even when it is difficult, even when it seems inconvenient, even when the world expects something different. As the hours passed, the young woman returned to her duties, each movement now steadier than before. Her hands poured coffee, wiped counters, and handled orders with the calm precision that had been absent earlier. She had been tested, judged, and yet she had emerged with her dignity intact. The customers who had witnessed the scene could not help but notice the quiet strength in her composure, the resilience that had carried her through an impossible moment. The manager approached her once more, his voice gentle but firm, acknowledging not just the mistake that had been made, but the way she had endured it. "You don't have to prove yourself to anyone," he said softly. "Truth does that for you." And in that simple statement lay a profound lesson, that integrity, patience, and honesty are more powerful than anger, accusation, or privilege. The accuser, now humbled, left the shop with her belongings, the misplaced wallet in hand, and perhaps a new understanding of the impact of assumptions. The morning light streamed across the room, no longer harsh or judgmental, but warm and forgiving, illuminating the barista's calm silhouette as she continued her work. For viewers, the lesson extends beyond this single coffee shop, beyond this particular accusation. It is a reflection of life itself. Moments when we are misjudged, moments when assumptions threaten to define us, and moments when patience, dignity, and the quiet truth carry us through. Remember, each interaction, each glance, each decision to pause rather than react, shapes the world around us. Stories like this remind us that the loudest voices do not always carry the most truth, that the smallest acts of courage can resonate far beyond the moment, and that every person, regardless of status or circumstance, deserves fairness, respect, and the benefit of the doubt. As you reflect on this, take a moment to consider your own life, your own actions, and the choices you make in moments of uncertainty. And before we finish, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. By sharing these stories, we not only honor the experiences of those who have endured injustice, but we remind ourselves of the power of truth, patience, and quiet strength. Let this story of a young barista stand as a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary moments handled with integrity and courage can become extraordinary, and that those who endure with dignity often shine far brighter than those who glare the loudest.